we are going to be talking about the Maine Energy Systems pellet boilers that are kind of ubiquitous when it comes to people talking about pellet boilers in general. And so people often immediately imagine this green and white boiler, and it's because they've been so successful with their distribution, with their dealer network, with the boiler in itself has just been very solid. And so we're happy to have Jared here today with us to tell us the story about the company and the products and some of the new things that they're doing. So that's today. We do have another webinar starting on next Thursday. We'll hope to be right on time at 10 o'clock and get rolling. And this would be on the large-scale biomass boilers that we've been using a lot lately, the Schmidt boilers. Generally, they're chip boilers. They are very high capacity. We've got between, say 1 and 10 million BTUs per boiler, often used in combination and so forth. So we've got one of the representatives from actually in Switzerland who's going to be giving that talk. That's why we had to change the time to 10 a.m. so that we have access to them. And that will be the last one until after the holidays. I think you'll see some new webinars coming up after that. So keep your eye on this. If you're on our mailing list, you'll be getting this. And you'll see a very popular one is the one that was, it says last week, but actually 2 weeks ago, it was the role of forest biomass-based energy in addressing climate change, with Robert Malmsheimer speaking about this from a real science point of view. And it's quite interesting, especially if you've been doing what we've been doing for the last 10 years of installing a lot of pellet boilers, thinking we're doing the right thing, and there's people questioning that, and there's actually, we're in a really good place here, and this is not the first organization or person to be speaking about this, but he does it very effectively, and I encourage you to watch that video. Go to our YouTube channel. I'll go back to that again. Just go to YouTube, and if you can't find us any other way, just type in Froling Energy Biomass Systems, and you will find a directory of a number of different videos there, including today's session will be posted there in time. And that's within a few days, actually, it should be up there. So today is Climate Conscious Central Heating with Maine Energy Systems pellet boilers. Jared Mulliner, the Vice President of Business Development, will be speaking today. Wanted to tell you quickly about us is that we are a mechanical contractor. We're focused on the installation of high efficiency, low emission commercial biomass boiler systems. Those are generally of the larger size systems. We often put in residential systems in the course of a year. We'll do 5 or so, but we tend to do 5 or so big projects like some of the things you see here. We tend to do a lot of school systems, a lot of school buildings. We're going into their boiler rooms and renovating completely, pulling out old boilers and installing biomass. Sometimes we're adding other equipment, and sometimes we have to build a building for those boiler systems. Commercial buildings, industrial buildings, multifamily buildings are very popular as a good place to apply this kind of technology, because we're generally talking a big boiler that provides heat for a number of different locations. On the other hand, residential or individual small buildings are very popular for the pellet boilers, which we'll talk about today. We're a self-performing contractor. We can handle all aspects of a boiler system installation. So you can see that, we've got, in this picture here, you can see we not only put up the silo and put in the boiler, we built the building and then we put the pipe into the building because this didn't have any room in the boiler room. So those kinds of things, including hiring of subcontractors and getting all the materials in place and going into that boiler room and doing the demo and replumbing everything. It's a big project, and this is the kind of thing that we do. We wouldn't do an addition onto your school and the boiler. We would basically just want to do the boiler and maybe the boiler room. So we're focused on that sort of thing. Another thing is technical consulting on biomass boiler systems. Anytime you have if you're an engineer, a designer, or a building owner, a facilities director, you want to just understand what's possible for your building. We're very happy to help you with feasibility, do a site visit, help you with the design, estimating it, finding out if this is a viable thing, trying to talk a bit about the what's the payback on this? What's the ROI? Does it make any sense? And the value engineering side sort of goes along with that, where we're trying to get it so that it works, and financially as well as physically functional. Help you with specifications, grant applications, another thing. Very often we're aware of different grants that are available, and we're happy to consult with you about that and assist you in getting those. We also are, besides being a contractor, we're a manufacturer of PDCs, which are these precision dry wood chips. And what it is we take in chips from the woods. A lot of foresters out here have the low-grade wood. They select out the bowl wood, and we take it in and we screen it, bring it down to a size about the size of a matchbook, and then we dry it. We have a belt dryer, a big industrial belt dryer that brings it down to 25% moisture. And then we can load it into our big trucks that are blower trucks, and those can blow it up into these above grade silos. And that's the advantage of the dry wood chips. It's in between pellets and green wood chips. The system is, they can be costly, but actually if you were going to do it with pellets, it's not that much more expensive than what a pellet system would be of a similar scale and the multi-million BTU size that we typically work in. And that's the scale that you'd need to be able to cost justify the change to a dry chip system. But anyway, there's a lot to talk about there, and we've got videos about this. So it's just something that we found this niche, and we've really developed it here with some 20 customers now that are offsetting over 600,000 gallons of oil every year using our dry chips. So we're pretty proud of that. That is not big compared to the number of people that are burning pellets in all different situations. There's I'm sure a couple million gallons of fuel oil that are no longer being burned as a result of people putting in pellet boilers. And nobody's put in more pellet boilers than Maine Energy Systems, and wanted to introduce Jared Mullen, who's going to tell us all about that. Jared is the Vice President of Business Development at Maine Energy Systems. We call it MESys, so you see that a lot around. It's a nice, easy way to say it. He's a graduate of the University of Southern Maine, where he studied business, and he spent many years on the sales of MESys boilers in the Maine company there. And one of his most significant achievements was overseeing the installation of over 150 boilers in Berlin, New Hampshire, and Farmington, Maine, during what they called the Model Neighborhood Project, which was a partnership between them and the Northern Forest Center. They were encouraging, stimulating that market, getting these out in the field, and that was a wonderful, wonderful start good number of years ago on getting people to really accept this as a way to heat their homes. He's also been a committee member on the Northeast Biomass Heating Council, and he's served as he's been burning wood pellets in his home since 2006, when he began working solely with those pellets in his house, and he enjoys spending time with his wife and 3 children. He's very active in his church and his community. So I'm going to make sure that we're able to see this. Are we all seeing your screen now, Hannah? Is that Jared? Can you see your screen?
Appreciate you organizing this and inviting us to come talk a little bit about our products, and thank you, Jim. You've been a very organized gentleman in getting all of us together and giving us an opportunity to talk. I'll tell you, Jim and I have been at this a long time. I remember being in some school gymnasiums maybe a decade ago, side by side, talking about pellets, pellet heating equipment, all sorts of places in New Hampshire and Vermont next to each other. It's good to see how far we've kind of come, Jim, isn't it? And Froling Energy has certainly been integral in that process.
I'll start by talking just a little bit about us as well. As a lot of you know, the Northeast and New England in particular is a very heavily forested part of the world, and kind of the pulp and paper wood that Jim touched upon doesn't have anywhere to go for a little while. And our company's founders were part of a wood to energy task force that got together and said, you know what we should be doing with all this wood is turning it into affordable heating for the people in the region, to have a local fuel that can be delivered locally, manufactured locally, and to use this wood that's the abundance of wood, and obviously it's not being used, and Maine Energy was born. When we talk about these heating systems and pellets and kind of where they've come from, again, we've been at this for over a decade. So we like to say the central heating systems of tomorrow are here today. And pellet heating started off, most people think of stoves, and they think of other different types of equipment. As we advance the slides here, bear with me. Pellet stove, we got space heaters. Obviously that's what most of the majority of people in the marketplace are familiar with, and we also have hand fill units, and then of course the designed wood pellet central heating systems that we'll talk more about later on. Like I said, most people are familiar with these. Just a space heater, dump bags. Usually when I walk into a room or give a presentation, like Jim and I have done so many, most people are asking us about this because this is their impression of what they're thinking of, because it's what most people are familiar with. We do have a step up from that here at Maine Energy Systems. We have what's called the EasyPel. Not a space heater, it is a boiler, but it is something that you would dump bags into, similar to a stove. And then obviously it has manual cleaning and some manual things. So the unintended use period of time is not particularly high, but above that of a stove, but not that great of the boilers that we have that are out there that are fully automated. But this is a good fit for a lot of people find this to be far easier than cordwood, and so they'll think it's a good alternative than to go fully automated maybe. But we do have systems that are designed all the way from the boiler to the bin, and we're not quite obviously as easy as a liquid fuel, but pretty darn close, where, as we'll talk about, trucks are delivering fuel just like oil and propane. You never have to see, touch, or handle pellets, and there's just a little bit of ash that would need to be removed, but they clean themselves. There's no scraping or shoveling of ash, and of course they can be installed without a backup. These are the bins that I've been talking about, pellet storage containers. We offer so many different sizes to help accommodate different houses, different commercial spaces, schools, where to put these bins so that they can be fed to the boiler automatically. This is sort of just showing a diagram of the flexibility of these things in a home. Again, we are typically a residential unit. As we'll show a little later on in the presentation, though, we do have some versatility to do some small commercial and industrial applications. But when people think of the Maine Energy Systems boiler, and where we've been obviously the most popular, is in the residential market by far. And so you've got your pellet boiler obviously down in the basement with your pellet storage. Obviously they can handle radiant flooring, radiators, do your domestic hot water, and meet the demands of any home without requiring of a backup. 3 different types of pellet storage. We do sell these systems kind of all over the country and into Canada. So we don't want to leave them out ever, because as Jim talked about with their bulk delivery, we also have bulk delivery pellet trucks up here in the Northeast, and lots of different companies that are doing it. But it is pretty regionalized to New England as far as bulk delivery. There isn't a lot. So we have different types of pellet storage. We talked about the bins that are shown here on the far right with the springs on the side there. Silos are also another option, in particular in larger installations, and of course where there isn't room, we have that in the left. And then in the middle, because we do have such a vast market, but pellet delivery isn't all over the place, we do have bins that will accommodate those that are looking to burn something like that and need something that you can still dump bags into. And that's a nice little seamlessly designed system that runs with our units and holds about 1,000 pounds. So there are options for those that are outside the pellet delivery network. Some of those fancy trucks that we're talking about that deliver this fuel, we have, I think, 5 of these. There's other companies like Lime Green Heat, Sandry Energy, Bournes that also deliver kind of up here. Probably you guys are familiar with them or have heard them. This far right photo that's a little bit cut off, but you can see that we have here on site, we have a few hundred tons worth of pellet storage. They get delivered to us. That is actually, they're being dumped into the floor and then grain elevatored up into our silos. And then right before we put them into our trucks, we have a shaker system that de-dusts and removes any of the fines right before they go in, so then they can go to your homes and businesses free of fines and dust and get delivered. And that operation, we are on truck number 10. And we've been doing that since about 2009, 2010 is when we've had trucks rolling on the road. Is that going through? Oh, watching a video here of this is our pellets getting delivered to us here as they're going into that grain elevator like I described earlier. And that's a little thing, and they're getting dumped in there. There's lots of pellet mills up here in New England, in the Northeast. You kind of see them all over the place. That's a question we often get asked about how the supply of pellets is stable, and as you can see, we've got a lot of different places to draw from. Us in particular, we mostly get ours out of Strong, Maine. That's the closest to proximity. Keep it local. We also have a pellet delivery depot down in Massachusetts that gets their pellets out of Jaffrey, New Hampshire. Another example of pellet delivery, and there, of course, we have one delivering right to a silo. Some of the things to keep in mind when we talk about, designing a system that is going to accept bulk pellet delivery. We do carry 90 feet of hose on a truck, so you're going to want to put fill systems within 90 feet of where the truck can pull up to and drag their hoses. The pellet hoses certainly weigh more and are a little harder to move around than the oil man, so as close as we can and easy as we can in places that are well shoveled or places that are protected from the kids if we're at a school site or something like that. We can go on a 25-foot of rise if we need to deliver pellets. And we have, standards that have helped streamline things so that we can make this a little easier on our drivers and on those who are receiving fuel. Keep in mind, obviously, it snows a lot around here, so we want to make sure it's in a place that you typically shovel or don't have a problem removing snow to get to, so we can get you fuel in the winter. We do have to lug those hoses, and of course that 25 feet going up, so it's hard to do, heating equipment on different floors than the pellet storage. We do have certified scales on all of our trucks, so although bins and silos are typically measured obviously in volume, we actually deliver based on weight. So obviously pellet density does vary from time to time, but typically speaking, we see it probably on average around 42 pounds per square foot. And the way that we deliver is by weight. We weigh the truck before and after, and we do charge, of course, then by the pound. And that is how we deliver the fuel. And so sometimes your bag or your silo may look more or less full than another time, depending on the density of the fuel, but it's usually pretty consistently pegged in between that 40 to 44 pounds per square foot. And then we have our certified scales that will tell you exactly what we sent you. think we have a video here, if that will pull up, of us delivering. A lot of people haven't seen it. I think this one in particular illustrates one of our fabric bags. Bear with me here just a moment. But if not, I can... Oh, here we go. So we have our hose that's connecting to the outside of a house. You can see that's in an area that wasn't particularly well shoveled, but they don't have a lot of snow yet. And the truck's blowing them into there. Oh, there we go. We got a little shoveled path there for our friend, looks like our pellet delivery driver, Scott, in this particular video. Nice single hose delivery, so they don't have to lug too much. And he's latched onto the back there and latched onto the house. And then there you see our fabric bags, which do sort of blow up like a balloon, keep dust and pellets inside, but let the air out so that we can deliver fuel indoor. So I would say that we have obviously different types of pellet delivery, and there are some that are better than others. These design bins would be best. I would say a silo would be next best, and then anything kind of handmade that people have had a whim or tried to construct are probably the next best as far as reliability. So these we've had the most success. Right behind that, a silo, just barely behind that in its reliability. But you can just see that bin, and what you can't hear is it sounding like a rain stick as the pellets are delivered into the bin there. We do Maine Energy Systems. We initially started off as a direct importer, then we bought the licensing and manufacturing rights, and we are assembling equipment right here in Bethel, Maine. We're getting kind of stuff from all over the place. Typically speaking, the heat exchanger is coming from Pennsylvania. Electronics are coming from Texas. Other componentry mostly is still coming from Europe, but we are putting them together right here in Bethel, Maine. And of course, looking over and fine-tuning and Americanizing slightly every piece of equipment that goes out the door. We have several different models, and of course boilers and furnaces. That's part of our new line there that does hot air. Just a little example of this is one at the build station there, as it's in various stages of being put together, and just an example there of the controller that we have on there. And as you can see in that top photo, this does talk about boiler safety. We do have a picture there of a fire valve with a Belimo there that will close to shut off the rate of the flow of fuel in case anything were to happen. So, as I talked about briefly, we do have a lot of, residential is certainly our market, and this is sort of an example of one inside a home there with, looks like a domestic hot water tank, and that is a boiler. We also have a furnace, but they can go all over the place once they're built. We hope that then they're in their resting place for the next a good long time, and people have made a good investment in a good, safe, well-built product that they're going to have for a long time. We'll move this slide forward here. One of the drawbacks of being in Bethel, Maine is the internet is as robust as the town, so we're usually drawing about 10 megs, which is not particularly fast. Bear with me here just a moment. Oh, what's going on here? We are having problems connecting to the network. Bear with us just a moment here. Is that going?
I'll say there you go. Got it. If you
There
do
we
have any
go.
questions, please enter them in the chat. So while he's getting this together here, we'll just have you do that, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end here.
Thanks, Jim. And it did advance there. One of the things that we talked about earlier was the convenience and sort of similarity to liquid fuel. One of the byproducts, obviously, of course, of burning wood is ash. So that is one of the differences that we have, and a little less convenient. But everything does get compressed and augered into an ash box that is very handy. It is external to the boiler, which makes it really nice and easy to dump and dispose of in an easy process on our systems. I believe we have a video here showing someone doing just that. We'll see how it works here. You guys probably won't have sound, but we're talking about the Maine Energy Systems pellet boilers with ash removal that is easy and seamless and only needs to be done a few times a year, and anyone can do it, and you can do it even in your Sunday best, as we have Veronica here demonstrating just how easy and how short a process it is. I will say, when you do she does it awful quick, but when you do put it on that container, it is a little dusty, so I'd let it rest on there for 30 seconds. So that is sort of the ending of how it is, but right here what we were seeing, sort of the insides here with, that is our heat exchanger cleaner right there. So that mechanism and that bar raises and lowers those springs, which then scrape the heat exchanger and have everything fall down to the bottom where it is swept up and compressed into the box that we just saw. But that is actually the internal cleaning mechanism. And our boilers are designed to do this twice a day. It does not interrupt any of its runtime at all. It just does that while it's running. And works nice, and like I said, twice a day to maintain its efficiency and to keep it nice and clean. Here's another example. That is actually our in-house engineer, Dan Wheeler, and even he can figure it out, how to do the ash, as I give Dan a hard time. This video will not have sound, so we might have to skip it, but it's, well, we'll watch it, but it's a nice little whiteboard video that we made just showing sort of the whole process about wood pellet heating and what these systems do. And you don't need to freeze. You can get a wood pellet boiler and it'll work to heat your entire home. It is a nice little summary. These vacuum lines. So when you are looking at these systems and thinking, okay, well, where can I put my pellet storage? You know, I'm doing an outdoor silo, or I'm doing a bin in a basement, or trying to figure out where to put it, because obviously pellet storage is a big thing. The good news is these hoses are 85 feet. That is the length, probably the furthest that we would want to be from the pellet storage. You won't get the full 85 feet, obviously, because of, you got to get to the boiler and to the system. We can go up about 9.5 feet of vertical with this hose, and that's straight up, either right out of the bin, right out of the silo, or whatever. And then, of course, if you need to bury the lines, you can. We recommend that you bury it in an electrical conduit. But about 85 feet, and still going to work fine for that. And the 9.5 can be cheated. There are tricks to do that with pulsing. And then, of course, you can interrupt it with a 4-foot vertical in there and then go up again. But 9.5 straight up is about all the tolerance we have. This right here is sort of what this the design here of our burner and kind of what makes us a little bit different. As you can see here, we have an underfed burner. A lot of the boilers that you see will be horizontal fed or top fed, in particular with like a pellet stove. And I don't know if I can do my cursor to show a few things here. But self-feeding, you can see right above that ball valve, or that orange thing, there's a ball valve there where the pellets are going to be dropping down into, and then going down into the silver tube, and then coming up on the burner plate there as my cursor catches up. Combustion is going to be happening right there. That what you can see there is the ignition rod that's coming here where the light is happening. And we have sort of a unique ignition cycle. So obviously when you first fire it up, we will use that ignition rod. And that is what we would call like a hard start. But one of the nice things about that is those pellets will remain on that burner plate, sort of smoldering when the building that these are occupied in comes up to temperature and the demand is satisfied. They'll start modulating down, and then of course the demand will be gone, but those pellets will still be there. And then say in a half hour when we have the demand again, the first thing that this unit will do is blow air in those tubes to try and ignite what is there. And we call that a soft start. And one of the things that we track is hard starts versus soft starts. And obviously, a couple of things. No downtime for the boiler. There's no full ash or full scrape. So you're not getting rid of what's there and ready to go and useful. And then, of course, obviously, that creates cleaner emissions profile. We are not having a hard start every single time. We're having lots of soft starts throughout the heating season with igniting what we have there. And then, of course, right above where we're burning on the burner plate is our burn chamber gasification. That's where we're reaching our 1200 degree temperatures right in there. We do have modulating systems. They range, obviously, so we can burn as few pellets as possible, anywhere from 100 to turn down all the way to 30%. We have 8 sizes, 3 different footprints, 3 different boiler footprints. And then what I want to talk about next is, in particular, the larger footprint that can be used. Here's a quick slide here, like I'm talking about the low emissions there. We did pass the phase 2 certification, obviously, and have, I think we're at like 0.04 in our particulate. But the cascading, so like we've talked about before, obviously residential, these boilers have been popular. There's far more opportunity in the residential market that we saw and kind of set out to be that. But we don't want to be excluded. We are able to cascade the larger footprint, in particular to 2 to 4 boilers. We've found that beyond 4, other pieces of equipment are usually more economical. So 4 is typically the limit, and that's what our controls allow us to what we call stage together. We do have systems that are larger than 4, but 4 is typically where we are. And some benefits to that, obviously, you have redundancy. When you have multiple boilers, you do have a great system turn down. And we find that it does work very nice to have these stage systems. Let me show you some the flexibility and the installations that we have been able to put these in. Obviously, we have, primary homes, but we have Mount Abram Ski Resort is a place. We've got a lot of churches that have done these, and we can do far more than just residential and have in all of these locations. And we'll look at some of these specifically, some of these that even Jim from Froling might have recognized. Here we have the Harris Center. This is one 56 kilowatt boiler. It's about 200,000 BTUs. We have that the building is about 10,000 square feet, as you can see on there, and they're burning about 12 tons, and a real nice installation that Froling was able to do. We got the Cornish Elementary School, one of our first boiler cascades in the country. They did 3 of them here, put them out in a box, beautiful installation. They've had them for a long time. It saved them a lot of money. So we've got 3 boilers being fed by 1 silo out there, 600,000 BTUs in Cornish, New Hampshire, and what a wonderful install that's been for nearly a decade. Right here, actually close by, there's a 4 boiler cascade, which is about 800,000 BTUs, and they originally thought that that would probably offset their oil. It almost replaced it at the Crescent Park Elementary School, and these suckers run and burn a lot of fuel, that's for sure. Originally designed obviously as a partial load, but ended up carrying far more than they thought it would. And that is, I don't know if we have a picture of the silo, but it is 1 silo feeding 4 boilers. It has a pretty unique, what we would call a drop boot or pant leg thing at the bottom to accommodate 4 different suction pickup systems to then feed the individual boilers right there in that system right there. So that's one of the many kind of 4 boiler bangers that we have, or stage boiler systems that we have throughout the Northeast here. Here's a 2 kilowatt system, so about 400,000 BTUs. Peterborough. Peterborough was and continues to be sort of a major installation spot for pellet boilers. Beautiful install done by Froling Energy, and they have been very blessed to offset a lot of their heating oil and reduce their CO2 emissions. And these have been installed for long enough, even where it was when we were directly importing, and you can see the ÖkoFEN logo on the green instead of the MESys. So they've been running for a nice long time. We commend Froling for their wonderful installation work there. Right here, the Samberton, New Hampshire Central School. Here's a 3 boiler cascade unit. Again, doing the same type of thing as the Cornish Elementary. So we have certainly been able to get into a lot of schools, businesses, and different types of buildings, not just residentially, to have our systems work great for these people. Here's that 10-unit system that I talked about. Again, typically speaking, once you get beyond 4, a different piece of equipment usually is financially works out a little bit better for you. But this is up in Nuvik in the Arctic Circle, and ironically enough, this is at an oil camp where they have 10 ÖkoFEN systems or MESys AutoPellets that are heating that up there, and they have been up there for quite some time and are doing a real nice job. We've talked a little bit about it. One of the big draws of this, obviously, is the CO2 reduction, and you can see the reduction that happens between the different other fuel types. And I bet they talked a little bit about that on that popular presentation that happened a couple of weeks ago with Jim. So a couple of boilers that we have that are new and coming onto the market, and we have a Smart XS, which is a condensing boiler. Quite a neat little unit. It's small in its design. It's really compact. It has a built-in integrated domestic hot water tank right on it there on the left. As you can see, the tall section of that is about a 90-gallon, which can do 2 things. Obviously, it does your domestic hot water. It also has an option for an available solar coil that you can have in there as well. So it could do, if you've got solar hot water, and then of course you could use your boiler to supplement that. Really nice unit. So tested really well, over 90% efficiency, obviously super clean, It does have its limitations as far as where it has gone in the U.S. market, because it is a condensing boiler. It does require very low return water temperatures and low output temperatures as well. So it would need to be in low temp heating system. So for all your new designs, so engineers that are out there or architects that are new construction for a home that's going to have a real nice radiant system with return water temperatures, below right around 100 degrees and output temperatures 120 and such. Great design, and they have worked very well in those applications. And we have also learned that if you're doing a high temp system, it will work, but it's preferable in what it is designed for low temp. Additionally, this product, I'm not sure. It was one that we brought over. We were really excited about it. I don't know what its future holds. The Smart XS obviously has a place, but this is the Pellet EMAX. It is a CHP boiler we've had for quite some time. We actually had it even at a conference in Washington, D.C. on the Mall, where we demonstrated it there for people to see. But it produces about 60 kilowatts of heat. It can get up to 5 kilowatts of electricity. Probably continuous output is more like 3 kilowatts. What we have found so far, we have a couple in the field, but they are in sort of research type settings, is they're too expensive and the heat to power ratio is too small. Where this is done by a Stirling engine, which rests, if you can visually think back to my slides there where we had the combustion chamber tube that resided just above the burner. Well, this then would sit above that where we have our 1200 degree temperatures. The Stirling engine head would go down in there and use that to power it. Stirling engines, though, are incredibly expensive. So this unit is about 60 grand. And obviously, that doesn't include any batteries that you would want to be charging. So that setup would need to be in place, and that doesn't include any installation. And it is a bit more challenging to install than a typical unit. So where this thing holds in the future, unknown. There are a few there. It does not currently have its U.S. certifications. So like I said, it would need to be for a research facility, but it is something that we played around with for quite a while, and we do have it to heat our warehouse and the availability to charge someone's electric car if they came to visit us here in Bethel. We can do that for you. But it is a unique concept, unique idea. Might not be quite there yet, but there are some that have said, we don't care, we want it, we need it, it's too cool. But there's only been a handful so far. Of course, just touch upon this. Obviously, when we're looking at this stuff, all this stuff is really neat and shiny, and that also means really expensive. But we are fortunate enough to have rebates in just about every state up here in the Northeast available to help people offset the cost of these. And of course, if you want to learn more, always visit us at MaineEnergySystems.com, and you can see the different products that we have and technical specifications if you'd like. And again, at this time, I'd like to thank Jim for this wonderful opportunity and thank him for organizing this. And we appreciate all that Froling has done in helping getting this industry off the ground these past 10 years. And of course, if there are any questions, we're available.
Yeah, if you've got questions, we can take them on the chat function again here. So please enter something in there. You can do it to everyone. And on the other hand, I suspect we can come up with a few extra things that we could ask about here just to sort of get things started. Just residentially. What would you say is like the biggest impediment for getting a pellet boiler designed into a building, like an existing structure? What's the most common difficulty that people might run into?
That I see where on earth to put that pellet storage bin. I mean, I even had that fight with my own wife when we were putting ours in. She said, "Well, where on earth is that going to go?" Because she wants to store the kids' ski boots and skis down there. But once people kind of get over and see when it's actually in the space, it's not that big. It's just tall, so it looks pretty imposing. But I would say that's the number one impediment is kind of grasping the pellet storage concept, and that it doesn't need to be maybe right next door, because most New England homes I walk into, the boiler's tucked underneath the stairs, and that doesn't necessarily mean, okay, well that's a great spot to put a pellet bin too. But when you can then say, oh no, we can tuck that in the corner and still have your heating system tucked underneath the stairs, and it works fine.
That's good. How many people do you think leave their existing boiler in place? What would you say? Is it percentage-wise? They leave like an oil boiler in place as well as putting a pellet boiler in.
Probably 10. Yeah, probably 10% are still have both in.
I should go back. What's that? Go ahead.
I was going to say far more people treat it as a full replacement.
And a lot of times that's what's driving the inquiry anyhow, is their boiler's failing and they say, now it's time, I'm going to get that pellet boiler I've been dreaming about. Would you agree? Yeah.
I was just going to say, and I would say that's so low because typically speaking, we're replacing something that needs to be replaced, so it's not worth keeping.
That's it. There's a certain level of insecurity of saying, I don't know about these pellet boilers, but when you've got a company like many of your dealers, and it includes us, is that we have a guy that's out there full time. He does cleanings and he does repairs, and he wants to keep your system going. We're just like the oil company, as Mark has said many times. We're kind of like the same paradigm these guys are using. We're a company that puts in boilers and keeps them running. So you don't have to worry about it. And we've got the parts. If something breaks, it could be cold, and just like it is with an oil boiler, it gets cold and somebody shows up and fixes it. So it really works well. Would you agree there?
Absolutely. And some of the things I forgot to touch on, when you're putting these in a commercial setting, we do have the availability to link up to Modbus and stuff like that. And we have online capability where it'll send you warnings if something were to happen. But typically they don't. I've had mine for quite some time. I have had one fault, and it was because my wife unplugged one of the cables that went to the pellet bin in order to sweep and forgot to plug it back in. That's it. Other than that, I've had nothing.
Back in the day when we used to have friends come over and enjoy a little entertainment with couples and so forth, the guys would all go downstairs and hang out at the pellet boiler. That's when that touchscreen really is the most fun and most effective, isn't it? You can show them all everything that's going on in there. Otherwise, it's sending you messages if something goes wrong, and that's kind of the story. But it is a great addition, the touchscreen. How would you react to that?
Absolutely. That was a huge sort of push for us to have a better interface. We used to have this kind of clunky jog wheel, and that touchscreen is, as we know, superiorly intuitive and really nice to navigate.
The silos are, you didn't brag enough about your silo. It's if you think about all the options that are out there, the silo that Maine Energy has is so well designed. It has this ability to fill the cube fully that is the silo sits there. Obviously there's a little space underneath it, but what happens is you can describe this better than I, but it's very space efficient. Jared, tell me more.
It's something that we hear from our dealers a lot, and it's just maybe something that I take for granted a little bit because we've always had it. But like Jim said, we hear this all the time, that it's like it doesn't even compare to the other pellet storage that's in the market, and it is really neat. So it actually has an auger that is in the bottom of it, so it's not entirely gravity. It's gravity assisted, yes, and that spring bag that we saw in a couple of those slides, when it fills out the space, and then as it empties, those springs lift and help feed those pellets down to this auger that pulls them forward to the suction point. It really is nice. You get a lot of pellets in a small place, and it just works really, really well. In a lot of the entirely gravity-fed systems, you kind of get what we would call dead spaces in the corners, where the pellets don't have to feed, and you have to go down there. And I've heard stories of really pushing on them to get them to feed kind of into the cone shape system. And if you think about kind of the design of some of those systems where you think that, okay, they might have a nice 45-degree slope at a certain size, but they're all kind of the same height because they're limited by basement ceiling heights, and then you expand that footprint out, all of a sudden those angles are quite shallow and create a problem. But obviously we don't have that issue with the design that we have, and it does work very well. And we do hear it all the time from people that work on our equipment that they wish they could put these bins on anything, but it is an integrated design for our system.
In some ways, it's let that be a lesson for you, is that the people that said, well, we've got this certain size space and we just want to fill it in and we're going to make this interesting shaped thing. Sometimes it works really well, but like you say, if you want to make like the upside down pyramid shape out of plywood using 45-degree slopes, the angles are just not all that great and things get kind of tied up. And if you end up looking in there, you'll see there's a lot of pellets that just don't go into the funnel. You could rake them if you wanted to. If should you run out of pellets at one time, you'll find there's a lot more left in there. But otherwise, it basically, pellets flow and they create their own floor, and it basically reshapes the silo. But there's going to be a lot of pellets sitting there not doing anything, not accessible, and you're losing space. Where if you actually used one of these cloth silos with the spring, I call them spring bags. It's just my reference point, but they certainly push the pellets around, and you're getting that full cycling of that bag, which is a good thing too, because you'll get a little bit of separation of fines towards the bottom, and this tips it all up and puts them all in so they don't concentrate for years and years. You can always sort of cycle through and dump them, make sure that the fines sort of go in with the pellets. Number of different factors there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say those 45-degree angles at the corners become 22 and a half.
Yeah,
so they do pile up in there when you're doing
that's good.
Well.
Yes, we've solved a lot of problems. We've had people disassemble their wooden one and put one of these in, and it's like they say, "Thank goodness," and it works out real well. So,
hey Jim, can I jump in with a question? This is Khaled.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jared, for sharing your knowledge. Question: you mentioned about 10% of the sites leave an oil boiler or propane boiler, maybe, and 90% can go full replacement to biomass.
Yep.
My question is that would a place like a school building, for example, go 100% biomass, or schools are kind of critical buildings that require some oil or propane? Just to know what type of customers require an existence of a fossil fuel as a backup fuel.
I would say schools are the majority of that 10%. We do have some that have done full replace. I can think of even the courthouse and jail in Maine that did full replace, but of that 10%, the majority of them are kind of that municipal installation, something important like a school or a hospital.
Okay, schools are, but you said the jail can go 100% biomass?
Jail did. Yep, the jail and courthouse. Yep, and one of the reasons why they were able to do that is it's a 3-boiler stage. So, okay, one's down, well, you still have 2 running. Okay,
yeah. And the other thing is that I was going to ask you, do you have any dust screening systems as you feed pellets to the boiler?
Feed pellets to the boiler, no. We try to make sure that we handle all that before it gets into your pellet storage bin. Screening it right before it goes into our truck.
And how do you clean it before it goes in the truck?
Right before it goes into the truck, we have it's called a gentle roll is the product, which screens things that are of a certain too large, we get them out, and then anything too small. So they're only left with the appropriate size pellets that are in there. So it takes the dust out. It would take any other imperfections, you know, that are whatever. Maybe a pigeon got stuck in there or something.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Right. Good. Yeah. The different. Obviously, you have your own delivery people and your own delivery up in Maine, and there's other people that may not be able to do the screening that you do, and they do their best to, you know, not. I don't know. Sometimes tumbling the pellets, long travel, whatever it is, you end up some fines. You're always going to have some.
Always going to have some. Send them over a screen. You know, we've seen. You know, there's some people do something, but yeah.
Yeah.
Usually the pellet industry has grown up enough around here where we have a good product that's durable and able to work.
That's right. If anybody else has a question they want to verbalize, you know, just unmute yourself and ask that question. So,
just to follow, do you do any wood chip or boilers as well?
We do solely pellets. We let Jim and Froling handle all the chips.
So even with a precision dry chip, like a very small chip, would that be an acceptable fuel to a pellet boiler, or does that require a lot of software, hardware changes?
You know what? Good question. Great question. We've often thought probably our burner in particular would be able to handle it, but we have never messed with the settings that we would need to in order to change it to make it work.
No, I'm not. You don't have to give an answer that pleases Jim for the precision dry chips, but it's just something I thought about talking to Jim, that they are so small that they can be conveyed in a pellet conveyance system like an auger. But I've never tried it, so that's why I was just thinking out loud. That's all.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, our screening is only so good, and the neat thing about pipes and lighter augers. So what we find is that there are certain boilers out there that are either pellet or dry chip, but a pellet boiler typically can't handle just this weirdness of our fuel. That's just the inconsistency and chips don't flow at all. If you had a bag and you chopped a corner off of a bag of pellets, they'll all be on the floor in just a moment. Where if you just did it for chips, it would, you'd get two chips to fall out, and then you'd shake it, and you just don't move the same way. So a very different kind of fuel.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, Jared, we appreciate you giving the talk today and telling us all about these boilers that we've known for so long. The design has been refined so nicely over the years, and the reliability. We always talk. If it weren't for the kind of boilers that we are able to put in here, the reliability factor. We've seen various boilers come and go over the years, different brands that have tried, and it's just a bad design or something, and you guys have held on, and any kind of problems you address, and we've always appreciated that. And I can just say that this is the kind of brand that a person ought to consider if they're thinking about a pellet boiler, just because of that long-term experience, and good results is the way to go. So thank you for talking today, to helping us out to understand the pellet boiler business.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, so I just wanted to just go on and say that next week we're talking about the Schmid boilers. And you can see my screen now. I think I didn't have it up earlier, but the Schmid boilers are the big chip boilers, and 1 to 6 or even 10 million BTU boilers that we're using in a lot of our dry wood chips and even green wood chips. They've got steam boilers and hot water boilers. They're generally custom made one at a time, as opposed to having standards. And there are standard designs, but they don't have a big warehouse full of these things ready to go like Maine Energy does. So that's a difference, and it's something it's a different scale. This is going to be Marcel from the representative from Schmid is going to be giving this talk from Europe. So we welcome you to go to our YouTube channel. You'll be able to review this and other presentations that we've had over the last few months. In fact, we even started these back in April, and all of those are posted. So if you missed anything, one of the neatest ones that I can point to here in this slide is the one that says 3 biomass fuels and the boiler systems that go with them. That will help you understand maybe a bit more about the differences between the fuels,
and the, you know, the sort of design criteria you'd have to consider with these different fuels, and, you know, why you might consider each one of these different fuels. You know, one of the neat things about pellets is that it's a very flexible installation. I can stick the boiler over here and the silo over there and have a tough fill rig situation where I can blow the, you know, it's just all sorts of options where, you know, the chips start to limit some of those options, and that will tell you a bit more about that. So if you've got questions, maybe you want to request the slides that Jared had, find out more information, just you can write to me, and I'm happy to pass that information on to Jared and get you what you need. So please visit our website, and also just be in touch here. We'll have one more of our presentations here, one of our webcasts, and then we'll probably take a pause until January, February, and then we'll be scheduling a few more. So keep your eye out for that. And I thank you for watching today.